Tony has lost his company, his fortune, and is down to his last suit. And now, the villain Fei Long has created an LMD Tony. Welcome to the Comicstorian Complete Story Series, where we take trade paperbacks and single issues, and we break them down into digestible bites to help you understand. Then, we read them dramatically back to you. All alterations to the panels, text, and images are to prevent copyright problems, and all art is owned by its respective companies. This is Invincible Iron Man, issues 7, 8, and 9, and is the continuation of one of the series that Benny recorded for members and had intended to release to the public. So, enjoy.
Outside of Amarillo, Texas, Rhodey looks through his night vision binos at the Stark Unlimited Sentinel warehouse. "I think we're probably going to end up dead or in jail," Rhodey sighs to Tony, who is crouching in the dark next to him. "Or dead in jail. We can multitask," Tony points out. And Rhodey keeps looking at the target, questioning why there aren't more guards and wondering if Fei Long wants Tony to attack. "To be honest, it doesn't matter. I'd rather die than let those Sentinels come online with my name on them," Tony tells him, looking at Rhodey as he gets ready and reminding his friend that he doesn't have to help. But Rhodey shakes his head. "I do. Somebody's got to have your back, Tony." Moments later, Iron Man stalks up to the entrance of the warehouse, a large gun on his shoulder. The guards look slightly surprised, and they reach for their weapons, reminding the former head of Stark Unlimited that he is not supposed to be there, and that they're supposed to arrest him. Iron Man pulls out the massive gun. "You might consider me a disgruntled former employee. Workplace violence is at an all-time high, so you might want to get out of my way," Iron Man says as he opens fire, blowing a massive hole in the door. He steps through the new entrance, looking at all of the workers inside. "Everybody clock out early tonight and come in late tomorrow," Iron Man tells them. The workers look at him for a mere second before rushing towards the hole in the door. Moving forward, Iron Man begins to plant explosives around the plant, but one of the Sentinels turns on him, moving fast, smashing its fist into the ground, but Iron Man keeps moving, dodging out of the way and opening fire with his cannon. "All right, partner, the Hornet's nest is good and pissed. Good luck," Rhodey says from inside the Iron Man suit. Meanwhile, in the shadows of the building, Tony is making his move in his new stealth suit, an Iron Man nil armor. As Tony continues to move, placing the real bombs around the plant, Rhodey is continuing his fight out front, making everyone think that he is Tony. But he feels vulnerable without the many weapons of his War Machine armor asking Tony to hurry up. Tony finishes up his mission, downloading what he can from the Sentinel's brain computer. It's mostly encrypted, but he discovers the Sentinel's targets. "He's an absolute madman. Fei Long isn't targeting just humans. He's targeting all of us," Tony gasps over the radio. He plants the last bomb, dropping the stealth to rocket into the air, but the Sentinel then detects him and moves fast, its hand lashing out, locking on to Tony. Meanwhile, Rhodey is knocked aside, continuing his battle. "I'm not going to be able to switch armors, Tony," Rhodey shouts, but Tony is struggling against the Sentinel's grip, reaching for the detonator. "Rhodey, the stealth suit wasn't built for this. Get clear!" Tony shouts as he presses a button, the warehouse going up in flames, with Tony activating his rockets and ripping the Sentinel's hand free of its body, bouncing to safety. With the Sentinel good and distracted, Rhodey moves to jump back into his War Machine armor. "I'm doing a quick change and sending the Mark 70 home. Take over, boss," Rhodey says to the AI as he steps free of the armor, allowing it to fly away. He moves to get inside of the War Machine, but a blast hits the ground, throwing him clear. Wounded, Rhodey collapses to the ground and can't do anything but watch as the Sentinel reaches down, picking up the War Machine suit. Nearby, Tony Stark manages to break free of the Sentinel's hand, shouting for Rhodey over the radio, but receiving no answer. As he moves forward, he comes over the hill to see the Sentinels and Orcus security forces surrounding the scene, taking the wounded Rhodey into custody. It's only a few hours later. The sun has now risen. Fei Long is standing beside Dr. Stasis and Nimrod, their Fall of X plan in full effect, surveying the damage that Tony Stark has caused, but Fei Long isn't concerned. "I've got secret factories pumping Sentinels out, but we won't have enough machines on the night of our stupid party to get rid of all of our targets that we had hoped would be removed," Fei Long admits to his cohorts. "But don't worry, it'll all work out. By the time the Avengers and all the others realize that they're on the menu as well, it's not just mutants, it'll be too late." Fei Long says, turning to the foreman from last night. Which one of you wants to do the honors? Fei Long says, walking away, leaving Nimrod and Dr. Stasis behind. Nimrod takes control of the situation, stepping forward, executing the man with his robotic hands. Meanwhile, at the cab depot, Tony has put in a call to Jennifer Walters, trying to figure out what's going on with Rhodey being arrested in Texas. Tony wants to help bail him out, but Jennifer explains that they can't. Tony, the judge already refused to consider bail. They found a body in the wreckage of the factory. Jen says, staring at a picture of a man killed in the warehouse, supposedly crushed beneath the building, the same foreman that was just killed by Nimrod. Tony is shocked by the news, unaware of the ruse that they had planted the body. He drops his phone, collapsing to the ground, thinking he just killed a man. Oh, God, he whispers. Later, after once again talking to Jennifer and explaining to her what has actually happened, the Stark Sentinels begin to roll out over the country. Tony realizes that he needs to go underground to get away from the fight against Fei Long. So he sells the cab depot quickly and begins to pack up the Mark 70 armor, knowing that he can't use it since Fei Long owns the patents. As he's putting it back in the storage box, a priority alert comes over the Avengers line, informing him of an attack on Washington by Captain Krakoa. Maybe we can have one last ride, Tony says as he puts on the helmet. Tony meets up with Captain America and Rogue, and the three head to Washington to stop Captain Krakoa. As he's not needed too much, Iron Man retreats, leaving Captain America to decide to put together the Unity Squad again to solve the Captain Krakoa situation. That storyline is covered in Uncanny Avengers. After that event happens, Tony Stark returns to New York and is surprised to see one of the Sentinels is scanning a building. He watches from a distance as the Sentinel suddenly smashes through the wall. High-value mutant detected, the Sentinel cries out, and Tony watches in surprise as the dust clears to reveal Emma Frost, Wilson Fisk, and his lawyer. Emma Frost, this is a warrant for your arrest. Comply or face consequences, the Sentinel says as it activates its weapons. But Tony moves fast, firing his goo weapon to clog up the Sentinel's repulsor rockets. The Sentinel falls out of the sky, collapsing to the pavement below. Tony then turns to the meeting taking place. Well, what am I interrupting here? Captain Krakoa attacks Washington and you're skipping your own party to do business with Wilson Fisk? Tony asks, but Emma just glares at him. You loathsome, self-righteous imbecile. Your machines attack the Hellfire Gala, kill scores of humans at our state function, and you have the gall to speak to me like that? Emma Frost snaps as she stalks forward. Behind her, Wilson Fisk leans down, signing a paper, telling her, the deal is complete. Tony pops up his visor. What? Wait, America and Krakoa were attacked? I had no idea. I was dealing with the DC thing. Emma demands to know what Tony is going to do about his Sentinels. But now, Tony gets mad. I told you at the last Hellfire Gala that everything was turning to shit, but you didn't listen because here we are. As for those Sentinels with my tech, I can't exactly disappear at the moment and build an armor the size of... Tony is shouting at Emma, but he's interrupted as the Sentinels return, smacking him out of the sky. Tony spins through the air, slamming into a taco truck. Crap! I just realized I didn't eat tonight. He groans as he looks up at the discarded ingredients covering him. The Sentinels begin to press the attack. The Fall of X event in full effect, stepping on the truck, causing it to explode. But back at the meeting room, Fisk heads for the door. You should use Stark's arrival to quietly egress, Frost. Fisk calls over his shoulder, but Emma doesn't respond, glaring at two more Sentinels that have just arrived, their weapons already trained on her. Fei Long, I know you're listening, and you're feeling very clever right now. Congrats on conquering Stark, but you're going to find that you've bitten off more than you can chew by attacking me and all of the mutants, she snaps. Back at his base, Fei Long is smiling on the camera feed. Doesn't feel like it from where I'm sitting, he says as he sips his champagne. Emma transforms into her diamond form, reminding Fei Long that the Sentinels can't hurt her in this form. She gives one final chance for him to surrender and turn himself in, to admit to the crimes that he has committed using Stark's Sentinels. Fei Long ponders for a moment before laughing. Sentinels! Pick her up and throw her to the street. Kill them both. Tony struggles to his feet, Emma slamming into the pavement nearby. Screw me! She snaps as she struggles to get up. How was your flight in? Tony asks her, and they both look up as three Sentinels land in front of them. Tony's shouting for Emma to run while he holds them off, but she shakes her head. I'm impervious to damage while in my diamond form. Perhaps it is you who should run to cover. She tells him, and one of the Sentinels tries to step on her, but Tony flies forward, grabbing her out of the way. Sorry about what happened tonight, but I've just decided on a winning strategy and don't need you slowing me down, he says as he drops her. 3 against 1 is hardly sporting, Tony. Are you sure you can manage? Emma asks as she heads towards the subway. Tony promises her that he can handle this and she flees, but she links their minds, informing him that the mutants are on the run and she needs to find what remains of the X-Men. Good, send them my way. I don't want them thinking I'm stealing their bit with the Sentinels, Tony says as he turns back to the robots, but he's shocked to find that the giant Sentinels have disappeared. Suddenly, 2 fists slam together as the Sentinels come out of their limited cloak form. Emma senses Tony's pain rushing back to the streets. Help me! He struggles to think as he collapses to the ground. The Sentinels train their weapons on him, and Emma rushes forward. Anthony, wake up right now! She shouts into his mind, but Tony still doesn't move. Finally, she has no choice, entering his mind, forcing him to let her take control. How hard can this be? Like driving a car, right? Emma thinks as she begins to try and pilot the Iron Man armor through Tony's body. She activates the repulsors just as the Sentinels fire on the downed armor, rocketing away. What a horrid contraption! Who would consign themselves to living in this Iron Maiden? She begins to ponder, but the Sentinels turn and see where she is standing nearby. In control of Tony's mind, Emma can't escape as they grab a hold of her and place a dampening collar around her neck, snapping Tony back into his own mind, as her powers are now shut down. I'm awake! Thanks for coming back for me. Emma looks at him, still in the Sentinel's grasp. Whatever happens, tell the world the truth tonight, Stark, she says, but Tony moves forward, stepping out of his armor and standing before the Sentinels. Stop! I surrender! He shouts to Fei Long as he collapses, offering him the Iron Man armor, but demanding that he spare Emma. Fei Long ponders this, ordering the robot to drop the woman. Why did you save me instead of running? Tony asks her. She quietly shrugs. It was self-preservation. They would have claimed that I had killed you, she tells him, and Fei Long orders the Sentinels to arrest Tony and retrieve the armor. But Stark moves his hand, motioning to Emma, offering to pay her back for saving him. Rescue. He orders the Mark 70. It moves quickly, wrapping around Emma and boosting her into the air. Oh my God, Anthony! She shouts as she is rocketed away from the scene in his only armor. Tony smiles as he looks at the Sentinels that tower over him. You wanted me dead, so do it. Go ahead. Kill an Avenger on the street. You'll be dead before dawn. Tony snaps at Fei Long. Tony glances up at the Sentinels, knowing that Fei Long is watching. What's it going to be? But lightning cracks overhead, rain beginning to pour it down. Tony is rescued as the God of Thunder and Captain America arrive. Back at his base, Fei Long leans back, laughing, ordering his Sentinels to disengage from the fight. They fly away, and Steve gets off his bike, trying to help Tony. Let's get you to the hospital. But Tony shakes his head. No, stay away, Cap. I don't want to be seen with any of my friends. I want Fei Long to think it's over, that he's beaten me. Tony says as he moves off into the night, leaving his friends alone. He stumbles down into the subway system, pushing deep into the tunnels until he rounds a corner to see the armor waiting for him. Don't be mad, he says before ordering the armor to open, Emma Frost stumbling out, gasping for air. Anthony, how dare you scoop me up into this unwashed sweat box? She yells before turning to see how injured he is. He sits down, gasping in pain, ordering the armor to light up the area. The two talk for a moment, with Tony explaining everything that he has found out about Fei Long's operation. About how he used the attack by Captain Krakoa on Washington to outlaw mutants and to put the Stark Sentinels on the street. Also, that Orcus has leaked that the medicine that Krakoa gave the world was laced with something and that it has been killing people. Emma gasps as she sees the news articles on the phone and sits down heavily next to Tony, realizing that once again, the mutants are outlawed. They've been laced with a very complex drug that we can assume is some kind of kill switch. It's the perfect frame, Emma says, reaching out with her mind, but she can't sense her daughters. My girls, I can't sense them, and I don't know if they're alive. Tony reaches out his hand to comfort her, and the two share a brief moment. He finally stands, telling Emma that they can't fall into despair, that they need to come up with a plan to fight back. He steps into the armor. I have an idea of how you might be able to hide. Give me a few hours, Tony tells her. But Emma doesn't hear him. What if they're all dead? She whispers, thinking about all of the mutants she can't reach right now. Tony stares at her for a moment before turning away. Then you'll avenge them. Meanwhile, She-Hulk goes to visit her client in prison and is shocked to see that Rhodey is wounded. She demands that the warden protect him, but the warden has obviously been bought off by Fei Long, admitting that sometimes accidents happen in prison. But Jen calls to Tony, informing him of what's happened, and Tony is overcome with anger as he continues to try and fix his armor. Damn it! Fei Long's gonna murder him just to watch it destroy me! Tony snaps and Jen agrees, telling Tony that he needs to give up the Iron Man armor to Fei Long to try and appease him. Later that day, at Stark Unlimited, the Mark 70 armor crashes through the front window. Fei Long smiles, staring at the obviously wounded and defeated Tony Stark. Call off the attack on Rhodes or suffer the consequences, Tony demands. Fei Long just shrugs. Why, Tony? I have no idea what you're referring to. Is your friend experiencing discomfort in jail? Tony growls in anger, turning away, continuing with his plan, grabbing everything that he needs and heading back into the subway. I didn't think you were going to return, Emma tells him as he finds her in the dark. But Tony shakes his head, explaining to her everything that he's discovered about the surviving mutants that have been deported to Arakko. The two are angry at each other, shouting over everything that has happened to them. But Tony is wounded and the stress on his body is taking its toll. He falls to the ground and Emma takes pity on him, helping him to sit and enter his mind so that they may talk. Tony informs her that he has a plan, but they'll need to work together to see the ruin of both of their enemies. I'm willing to die for this, but I want to do it smartly. Emma nods. They took everything, but they failed to kill me. That was their mistake. This will be their death, and I will let no man stop me. Tony nods his head. To their deaths, they both agree. They leave Tony's mind and return to the real world. He reaches into his pocket, pulling out a ring that he made, informing her that it has a psi shield from the Mark 70 armor. Emma looks down at the ring in Tony's hand. I didn't think this hellish day could get any worse. Tony raises an eyebrow. Every day can get worse. Isn't that the mutant motto? He reaches down to the bag and pulls out her disguise, believing that she should once again become Hazel Kendall. Emma sighs, putting on the ring. I hate this. I hate stifling who I am so that small men can avoid discomfort, she says, and they complete the disguise, heading back into the streets, walking through the city until they arrive at the Hellfire Club. Emma reaches for the door knocker, explaining to Tony why they came here. Several hours ago, I became a refugee. I knew my money would be seized. Before that happened, I transferred everything to a third party who, fortunately, shares our grievances. The door opens to reveal a butler who ushers the pair into the next room, explaining that the White King has been waiting for them. Miss Stark, Miss Kendall, may I present the new White King, Mr. Wilson Fisk, the butler says, Tony staring in shock as Fisk raises his glass to them. Welcome. We have much to discuss. Let's get down to business.
And that was Invincible Iron Man 7, 8, and 9. What did you guys think of this story? Let us know in the comments down below, and be sure to like and subscribe to get the notification for when the next video in this series gets released. Rest in peace, Benny. Thanks for the story.